This is the global version of the Redmi Note 11 Pro Plus 5G. It was originally launched in China in November 2021 and another in India with the Snapdragon 695 earlier this month. This global variant comes with the MediaTek Dimensity 920 5G chipset, 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 or 256 gigabytes of storage, a large 6.67-inch flat AMOLED display with 120Hz high refresh rate, a triple camera array on the rear, and 120-watt HyperCharge fast charging with included charger in the box. Prices start at $369 for the 6 128GB version and go up to $449 for the 8 256GB version. Is this the Note device you've been waiting for? Let's take a look. How's it, Grant here, and this is my first look and walkthrough of the global version of the Redmi Note 11 Pro Plus 5G, which arrived less than half a day before the global launch event, so I haven't had much time with it. But before going any further, a big thanks to Xiaomi for sending this over to me to check out and review. Now, just taking a look at the hardware first, this is pretty much in line with the Note 11 series design language. You can see here with the Note 11S, this is also the global version. You can see here with the branding and all the writing at the bottom there. So Note 11S, Note 11 Pro Plus 5G, similar look and design, both with that nice frosted glass back, which I really like. And we can also compare it to the Note 10 Pro from last year, which pretty much still is looking fairly similar as well. Again, frosted back. I like this kind of blue pearlescent kind of frosted matte color. So really look like this matte frosted glass back. Really hope more devices move towards frosted glass on the back, but pretty much looking like most of the recent Redmi Note devices here. This is the graphite gray with matte glass back, like I said. Also comes in a star blue or a forest green. Again, flat display and also a flat sides. So they've gone for flat sides, not curved. You can see all on the sides, the bottom, everything is straight and flat, nothing curved. And on the bottom, you can see here one of the stereo speakers right there. You've got a microphone port, Type-C, and a SIM tray. And this is a dual SIM tray. You can either use dual SIMs or one SIM and a micro SD card, and that can support up to 1 terabyte of extra storage there. At the top, you do have a 3.5mm headphone jack. You do have a microphone, an IR blaster, and the second of the stereo speakers there, which are tuned by JBL. I'll try to throw up a picture that better shows that JBL branding there. And on the right-hand side, you can see the power button and the volume rocker right there. And then on the left side, there is nothing. And this does support NFC, so tap to pay if you need NFC, it's included here. It does have an official IP rating, so IP53 water and dust resistant. Not the highest rating, but at least it does officially have one. It's pretty much basically splash proof. On this device, no wireless charging, so at this price point, pretty common to not have wireless charging. But again, it does support 120-watt fast wired charging, and Xiaomi claims 0 to 100 in only 15 minutes. And that's probably true because I've had other Xiaomi devices with 120-watt fast wired charging, and it does charge that fast. So really nice to see that feature coming down to Redmi Note device. I think this is the first Redmi Note with that feature. So I know a lot of people care about fast charging because you charge overnight, but once you experience really fast charging like that, you probably won't have to charge overnight. And it's really nice to be able to top up in a pinch. So really nice to see that here on a device at this price point. And then on the back, you can see that triple camera array over here. So this is actually the ultra wide angle camera, even though it's kind of highlighted with that 108 megapixel main camera branding. That's the ultra wide sensor. You have the 108 megapixel sensor right there next to the 2 megapixel macro camera, which I don't really suggest you use, is not that great. You have an LED flash right there. And then I'm not sure what this last sensor is on the bottom. Could be a depth sensor, but it's not on the spec sheet, so I'm guessing it might be just a dummy lens just for symmetry and to make everything look nice and balanced in this big camera module right there. You do have a 16 megapixel camera punch hole in the front, and you can see the speaker grill right up top above that right there for the earpiece. And so as far as biometrics, it does have face unlock and a fingerprint scanner built into the power button. So for those of you that like physical fingerprint scanners, especially ones that are side mounted in the fingerprint scanner, you're in luck here. It's really fast. You just tap on it and it'll unlock. So you don't have to actually push the button in. If you just tap on the scanner, it'll unlock. So really nice for right-handed folks, but even for lefties like me, I registered my middle finger here. If you just tap, it unlocks really fast and convenient. So not too bad, even though you're lefty. Nice that the fingerprint scanner works really well. Also, face unlock is also very fast as well. So if you just go ahead, and this finger is not registered, so I'll just activate the display, look at it, and it unlocks. So not as fast as some other face unlocks or even some other Xiaomi face unlocks. There is a slight pause to register the face and then unlock. You can keep it so that it stays on the home screen if you want. I've got it obviously so it goes straight into the home screen. But face unlock, really reliable, works every time, and is reasonably fast. Also, like I said and showed you, fingerprint scanner, also really nice and fast. So this is the home screen right here. This is how it looks out of the box. I have not touched anything or configured anything. This is what it's going to look like when you first set yours up. You can see all the apps that it comes with here. So in the app tray, You can see a bunch of apps here. There is some bloatware. You can see here some games that it came pre-installed with, as well as some additional apps that you may or may not like. So to some, it may be considered bloatware, including some of those shopping apps and even Facebook for me. But you can see there's also some word processing stuff. So there is some bloatware here on it. I did add these games at the bottom here, as well as a speed test. But otherwise, this is pretty much your stock look and feel. You are going to have Google Discover if you want to swipe over. If you don't like that, that can be disabled. And then also by default, you're going to have the navigation buttons turned on. If you want to move to swipe gestures or switch those buttons around, you can do that in the settings. Also, true to MIUI, it does have this control center. So a very iOS looking control center if you swipe down from the right. And to get to your notifications, you have to swipe down from the left. If you want to change that and make it more like general stock Android, where it's just a swipe down to get to everything, you can configure that in the settings. I'm not going to go through all the configurations and the settings that you might want to do out of the box in this video, because not everybody likes to dig into the settings in a video like this. If you want to see a things to do or things that you might want to change video, I'll consider doing that. Leave a like and leave a comment. Let me know if you want to see that. I'll try to do a separate video for that. And now taking a look at the display, like I said before, a large 6.67-inch AMOLED display with 120 Hz high refresh rate. It does have a 360 Hz touch sampling rate for all you gamers out there. Again, it's a full HD 1080p display that's 2400 by 1080, so 2400 by 1080 resolution, 20:9 aspect ratio there. And it, again, flat display, no curves. It's covered by Gorilla Glass 5. And it does have 700 nits of brightness by default, and it goes up to a max 1200 nits of brightness. So if you're not familiar with that, that's just how they measure brightness. And generally, most devices at this price point come in around 400 nits of brightness, which is okay for indoors, but once you go outdoors in direct sunlight, it becomes a problem and it's really tough to see. This one going up to 1200 nits brightness, outdoor visibility just fine. I tested that out. I'll probably show you on the screen here. It looks worse on the video, but in person, outdoor brightness, and that's into direct sunlight, really not a problem because it gets really bright. So it's nice to see a nice bright panel on a phone at this price point. And then, so again, with this nice bright display with 120 Hz refresh rate, paired with the dual speakers tuned by JBL, it's actually a really nice media consumption experience. Videos are gonna look great. The audio is gonna sound good. And I thought it was just a gimmick with these speakers tuned by JBL, but it's really not. I was really surprised. It actually comes out really loud and actually a little bit of fidelity to it. So it's not just really tinny like most lower end phones or lower cost phones are. Phones at this price point, speakers are kind of an afterthought, and they're maybe get loud enough, but generally aren't very loud in volume and don't have a lot of depth or fidelity to them. These get definitely very loud. They do have some depth to it. It's not going to have the fidelity of an iPhone speaker, but for a phone at this price point, I was impressed with the actual sound on it here. And so as far as software, like I said, it's running MIUI, and specifically 12.5.2 is the version number right there. And it is running Android 11, and it has the January 1st, 2022 security patch. So if you're wondering what software it's running, it's got Android 11 out of the box, as you can see right there. And again, MIUI 12.5.2. No updates that I can see right out of the box. You can see here, this is the version that it comes with. No updates. And again, January security patch. Now, as far as performance, like I said, this is running the MediaTek Dimensity 925G chipset, and MediaTek kind of has a stigma to it as not being as great as Snapdragon, but these Dimensity chips have been very fast, very powerful. I haven't had any problems, especially combined with that 120 Hz smooth refresh rate. Everything is running nice and smooth on this device so far, but I haven't had it that long. Again, this has 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 or 256 gigs of storage, and by default, this does have the RAM extender turned on. So if we go into About Phone, all specs, you can see here it says 8 plus 3 gigabytes, and so if we tap the info, it'll actually show you it says memory extension is on. That's on by default. It gives you an extra 3 gigabytes of RAM that's pulling from the onboard storage. So a lot of phones like this, or a lot of phones in general, are going to this kind of virtual RAM or extended RAM where they're pulling from your available phone storage and adding that to the actual RAM on your device. So it's kind of nice that it has it on this device. May help speed up your device. But like I said, everything is very quick moving through basic tasks around the UI, navigating. All the apps run just fine so far. But like I said, a little bit too early to get a really accurate take on performance, especially on gaming. But I have been playing various games, even some more high demanding games like Genshin Impact, Asphalt 9, all the way to more basic games, and it can play them. I haven't really run into major hiccups. Obviously, it's not going to run as smooth and as well as higher end and more expensive devices running more powerful chipsets, but this can handle those. And I'll probably do a follow-up video talking more about performance, battery life, connectivity as I use it more. Those things generally come along after a few days of use, so hard to tell after just less than a day, but performance so far hasn't been a problem. And so now talking more about the audio again, like I said before, it has a 3.5mm headphone jack. And if you actually go into your settings here, We go into sound settings. If you go all the way down to the bottom, your sound effects, it does support Dolby Atmos, like I was saying. By default, that is on. You can go ahead and choose from different presets, but it does have a custom graphic equalizer if you want to tune your audio to your specific liking. It does also support hi-fi audio, so if we turn off Dolby Atmos, you can see hi-fi audio here. We plug in some actual headphones, and you can see that becomes available now, so we can actually turn on hi-fi audio. This does actually support 24-bit 192 kilohertz audio, so really nice that a device at this price point not only has a headphone jack, but does support some really nice audio and sound options. So if you're into audio, you liked your wired headset, you want the best possible sound, you've got some options here at a $350 price point. Now, like I said, dual speakers tuned by JBL with Dolby Atmos. Let's go ahead and play a couple clips just to give you a sense for what it sounds like. Let's go ahead and play one more just of a different kind of a beat here, different type of sound. So there you go. Like I said, it might not come across over video and my audio setup here, but really loud, has some depth to it. It's not going to be as rich as iPhone speakers, like I said, but it does have a little bit of kick in the low end. Definitely good, fuller sound than most speakers at this price point, and gets nice and loud. Now onto my favorite part, which are the cameras. Like I said here, triple camera setup on the rear. Again, this is your ultra wide angle camera, even though it's branded as the 108 megapixel camera. That's your 108 megapixel sensor right there. 2 megapixel macro camera, which I don't really suggest you use. LED flash, and probably just a dummy lens for look and feel. And again, you do have that 16 megapixel front facing selfie shooter with a punch hole, and that caps out at 1080p. It can record 60 frames per second, but it won't be stabilized, just like how the 4K footage on the rear camera is not stabilized. To get stabilization and EIS, electronic stabilization, you have to use 1080p or full HD video on both the rear and the front. And the camera app itself is your traditional Xiaomi camera app. You have your photo mode, video. You actually have a pro mode for both photos, and if you tap this, for video as well, which is really nice. You have your other traditional camera apps like night mode, portrait mode. You also have this 108 megapixel mode. So if you want to use the full sensor, you can do that here, because by default, if you're just using photo here, this auto mode, it's going to pixel bin this down, which means it's going to combine 9 pixels into one single large pixel, about 2.1 micron size pixels, which is very large. All it means is that it's going to collect all that information, give you more detail per pixel and more light. So it'll be better in low light by default without having to always turn on night mode. But if you do want to use the full sensor, you can, if you want to gather all that detail. Just note that this is probably best used in good lighting, because, like I said, by default, individual pixels on that are going to be very small, not going to be very good for low light. But if you got a good amount of light, use this. You're going to get more detailed photos. And also, you can swipe up, you can get to this more panel here, which has a bunch of different modes, as you can see, like a lot of Xiaomi phones have. By default, this swipe up panel is not enabled. It's going to be all across the bottom. You're going to have to keep swiping. If you want to enable that, you can go into settings, go down here into customize, and then feature layout. You can drag whatever you want into the actual camera bar, or you can go to this camera mode and turn on this more panel. By default, it's on this more tab. You just swipe left and right. You want to flip up from the more tab, that's where it is. You can change the colors. By default, it is yellow. You can change it to blue, purple, whatever you want, and get a little bit of a different kind of look and feel to the photo app itself. And you can see here you can do HDR. By default, I have it on auto. You can turn it to force it always on. You also have an AI mode, which I don't personally use. You can have some other filters and whatnot. Also, Google Lens is there. And then this is where you can access some of your other quick toggles for aspect ratio, your timers. If you want to show grid lines, this is where you can access your macro camera. Just tapping on that activates the macro lens. Again, I'd rather use a digital zoom than that. But that's enough of the camera tour of the app itself. Here's some photos and videos for you to check out. Now moving on to the battery, this has a fairly large 4500 milliamp hour capacity battery, but it does, like I said before, support 120 watt, what they're calling HyperCharge fast charging. So you can see it comes with the 120 watt charging brick in the box, which is really nice. You're going to need the adapter, the US adapter, or whatever adapter you're going to need for your particular country. And I've used this on other phones and it does charge up really fast. Xiaomi says 0 to 100 in 15 minutes. And that's probably gonna be true. Other devices do charge up in that amount of time. I do have another Xiaomi charger with the American plug here. So using this will charge up very fast. And plugging in the cable, you can see the charging animation. It will pop up here. And you can actually see the percentage going up in front of you. So you can see there it'll register as Mi Turbo Charge. And you can see how fast that's charging there. So fast charging works here on the Redmi device. And I like seeing it coming to more affordable devices like this. All right, so moving on to connectivity, this does support Wi-Fi 6, and I do have a Wi-Fi 6 router. I normally get about 300 to 400 megabits per second down, given the time of day and whatnot and where I'm at in my house. So that I'm getting on par speed as far as Wi-Fi like I am on my other Wi-Fi 6 devices. I get 40 megabits per second up, which I also get on this device. As far as LTE and 5G, because it is a 5G device, you can get 5G here in the US. If you're on T-Mobile, it does support band N41. I'll throw up some of the bands so you can kind of see what other bands are on there, if it supports your carrier's 5G bands or not. But I did test this on Mint Mobile, which runs on T-Mobile's network, and it will show the 5G icon in the upper right of the status bar. But speeds are more like LTE plus. It's not really connecting to the ultra capacity network. So with that, usually with ultra capacity on devices that are meant for the US with 5G, I'm getting like 200 to 300 megabits per second down. On this one, as you can see, I'm getting pretty much consistently 30 to 40 megabits per second down. So not the fastest speeds, definitely more on par with LTE or LTE plus in my location. And so far I have not been able to connect to the ultra capacity. I know in the spots that I tested, I do connect to T-Mobile's UC network, because in those exact same spots, I get 200 to 300 megabits per second down. So not the fastest download speeds over LTE or 5G, but I am getting pretty good upload speeds. Those 30 to 40 megabits per second up is pretty much on par with what I'm seeing here in my area. So again, it's going to be very specific to what area you're in, what carrier you're using, but this is my results here in my part of Northern California here in the US. So there you go. That's my unboxing and walkthrough of the Redmi Note 11 Pro Plus 5G. If you've got this in another region, let me know what you think. Or are you thinking about getting one now that the global version is out? Let me know. Also, I'll be doing some camera comparisons, so watch out for those videos. And I'll probably try to do a settings video, maybe a follow-up. Let me know what you want to see as far as coverage of this device. And if you have any other questions or comments I can help answer, leave them as a comment below as well. I'll try to answer what I can. As always, thanks for watching.